Beasty representing the person that a lot of people would have probably had as a favorite going this series, but you should never write off 1puppypaw, an incredibly talented lad, improving week after week so consistently. Looking forward to seeing what he can do here with the Roos, especially if we get some good ball spawns. And look at these ball spawns, not the best ones we've seen today, but I've seen worse, and I've still seen Roost players try to use them.
It's an interesting board for spawn for sure. You get the feel that the left one holds a little more value simply because if you take a look at the hunts that Beasty has access to, which is going to be a factor to consider like in mid-late feudal age, you get the feel that this second board could give you a pretty nice opportunity to push this angle. But then again, as you said, not really any standout board spawns over here. Two very similar spawns we have here.
I quite like the idea of him playing East board just because one thing you're looking for up against the Delhi is, can I get an eco gain and block out Sacred Site? And I think if he pulls to the north, he actually would block out that Eastern Sacred Site.
That's true. Although you could also do that on the left one. So the one on the west.
True. So
it actually is interesting.
Is that he could pull a B and do free TC build Roos? No fans? Okay.
It's a possibility. I think it's a little too risky, but I'm not necessarily against it. The thing that's more appealing to me, to be honest, is that it's rather unpredictable what he's going to go for here. I think at this stage of the AOE4 meta, it's a relatively given thing that the Roos will go for a board. But when you have two so similar boards, it's much more difficult for Beast to predict what he's going to go for. And if he wants to delay or deny that, it's going to be much more difficult to do so.
Well, I'm curious to see if this Beasty subscribes to the Tower of Victory build or the TC build. I feel like those are the two leading builds right now, right, for the Delhi. Like, are there any other ones that you've noticed that kind of stand out as the future for this Civ?
Not much. It's actually one of the civilizations that didn't really suffer from massive changes recently, despite the fact that there were some nerfs involving them. It's going to be interesting to see how they evolve over time, because as you said, the Tower of Victory, a very much unexplored way of playing this civilization, something that is getting some level of popularity now thanks to the efforts of B.
Yeah, so our big innovator boy who's waiting in the finals to show all of his innovations and machinations in a best of 5 against one of these two players. And honestly, from what I've seen so far in this series, Lytical, this one really could go either way. Still feel that way even when I see the Civs.
Exactly. Micro once again delicate over here. Beast doing the math on those wolves. Only landing the final shot. Oh, he's not gonna get that.
He's helping someone land the final shot. 1puppypaw just double the firepower, proving a little bit frustrating here.
Yeah, that's the key thing here. Beasty can't really do much with just one scout here unless he's gonna get lucky. 9?
1puppypaw needs this as well. He hasn't started researching wheelbarrow yet. So yeah, he'll get the strike, and that should allow him to get wheelbarrow. That'll give him the flexibility to consider the board build.
Such a small detail by 1puppypaw. 9 HP was left on that one wolf.
Oh my god, I was wrong. He actually can't. He's only got one sheep at home. He needs to kill another wolf.
That's bad. It's actually very bad. That's a very delayed wheelbarrow compared to usual timings.
Yeah, because usually you're looking at 4.5 minutes, and it takes a minute and a half for the wheelbarrow. So he actually wouldn't be quick enough to get out for a ball play. I think he might just have to go for like a condensed 2 TC build here.
Yeah, but you see wheelbarrow still being delayed over here. There's a massive impact on his eco from the fact that he really didn't have a terrific time in Dark Age when it comes to gathering bounty. Only 220 in the bank. Nowadays, that is underwhelming at best for the Roos.
Yeah, and I don't think there's much left to actually gather up. Beasty stripped away a decent amount of it with the double scout play. And not that many sheep for 1puppypaw to bring back. You know, there's a decent amount. I think maybe 8 were being returned for the other scout, but overall, it's not going to get you too far. Upsides for him, deer are located close to the southwest towards a corner. Downside of that is if you look at this generation, that's a lot of open ground where 1puppypaw wants to be gathering resources.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering if he's thinking about the second TC close to the other patch of hunt right to the edge of the map. He's sending a lot of lumberjacks in action, so it is definitely going to be a second TC build from him. The question is where it's going up, and you talked about this one in the previous set we cast together, that having a town center close to the edge of the map gives you a little bit more upside, and it can negate the fact that it's otherwise out in the open and a little further away from your starting base. So I could see an upside in the right-hand side here, but looks like he might actually end up moving out for the left.
I think he wants to bridge towards the berries and the gold, right? He wants to kind of insulate himself long-term. Like, the deer on the right side feel good, but they also, look at the distance. You're talking about, like, traveling double the distance without wheelbarrow. I think that's something we have to remember here. This is 5 minutes in, and this Roost player does not have wheelbarrow.
Yeah, you get the feel that this is a pick your poison scenario because this one is an easier town center placement for him right now. It's more optimal for the fact that he doesn't have wheelbarrow. On the other hand, it's gonna be out in the open, as you mentioned. This is going to be a spot of vulnerability for him in the future.
I like that puppypaw doesn't squabble over the placement of the TC. Like, maybe there's one a little bit deeper, but when he sees the scouters here, he doesn't want to mess around. Like, maybe body blocks come out and slow him down. He needs that TC as quickly as possible. Especially considering that BC, now up in feudal, will begin his aggression as he drops the stables.
He also gets tech stalls, I love that. So he's afraid of a potential with knights, or just scouts. Ooh, Beasty losing a villager to scouts here. Not something that you see every day from a player of his caliber.
Yeah, the difference between him and B is that he doesn't actually pull out an imam to heal. His imam is right now, Scholar. I've been watching too much of Bastard. Scholar is garrisoned inside the stable, so he's not actually keeping these villagers alive. He's just leaving them to their own devices, or deaths in this situation.
Yeah, he probably just didn't look. Like, you know, you spot the scout beating up your villager, you're like, okay, I can deal with this later. But then he was just too busy scouting the opponent's base or just trying to body block that town center spot and just forgot about his will. By the time he looked back, he lost one. Bit of an edge here for puppypaw, but not a disaster for Beasty because we all know that Beasty's eco isn't going to revolve around the villager count, it's going to revolve around the sacred sites.
No, indeed. And maybe also it's just Beasty's thinking back to game one. He's like, oof, I need to remember those tech timings, got to stick to my build order. I don't want to go a few minutes without something important here. And, you know, if you slop that Squalor out and don't have him working in the mosques, you're going to get slower tech up timing. So maybe it's kind of that feeling as well. I know some players are very fickle about the timings with the deli. They don't like to miss that window of opportunity to get the sacred sites as quickly as possible.
The thing that's alarming for me, KP, is that we still see no wheelbarrow from puppypaw. And the same way that we have seen that in game number 1 from Beasty, that he forget about fresh foodstuffs for a long time simply because he already assumed that he has it, I kind of get the same vibe with puppypaw's wheelbarrow here. Obviously, he also wants to pop out some knights, so he's using the gold elsewhere, but it's getting alarming how delayed this wheelbarrow timing is for him.
I think he just doesn't care about it now. Like, at this stage, it feels detrimental compared to your alternative build. It sounds weird to say, but like I've seen this out of puppypaw, I've heard it out of him, like when he was coaching Core, and it was on the roofs actually as well, and he was just like, should I get wheelbarrow? And he's like, no. And then Core would be like, okay, do I get wheelbarrow now? He's like, no, now stupid. Like, he's just like, there's no point anymore. And I kind of see where he's coming from. Like, he's already made the trek. His villagers are out towards the deer. His ecos are quite condensed. It's probably better value right now to get your first military units out to combat the deli instead of going back for wheelbarrow, which is still going to take a minute and a half to start even returning.
Good point indeed. It's going to allow him to pop out some knights onto the field, although he's only fielding just one of those. And it is an eco deficit. At least it's being offset by the fact that he already is up by 10 villagers, but it's an interesting mindset you're talking about. Some players value the wheelbarrow a lot less than others do. And I don't think there's a clear-cut answer to this. Like, you would ask specific players about wheelbarrow, they would say, oh yeah, it's high priority to grab it. And as you said, puppypaw seems to be one of the guys that just says, oh yeah, it's not as important as many think.
You have to kind of exchange it for something else, right? Like, what is the cost of wheelbarrow, and then what's the cost of something else? Would it be more useful? Like, would a knight be more useful than wheelbarrow right now? And I actually think he's made the right call to get the knight out, just because the idea now is to put Beast on the defensive. Like, you are 2 TC versus 1, so you just want to try and prevent him from capturing these sacred sites, and also box him in his base while you start to eco boom.
Good value for the knight out here. He's going to yoink a scholar. More importantly, deny the sacred site for a time being in the middle.
Finally is going to go down. The best part is you don't even lose any of your troops for it. Maybe the horseman can chase you down, but it takes so long. In the meantime, Scout is tanking all these attacks, so the knight is actually getting some decent value, even when it's up against the unit that counters it.
Yeah, you gotta be careful though. A lot of damage taken on that one knight, and keep in mind, these are not French knights, you can't heal them back.
No.
Whereas on the other side, Beastyqt can heal all of his forces back to full HP.
It's one of those tough situations where you're forced to use the knight like this though, because otherwise the walls go up and the sacred sites are just trickling gold. So it's more like, can I trade this knight to get rid of your 150 gold for a minute or 2 minutes, right? I think that's the way that puppypaw is looking at this.
Yeah, you don't make those knights to live. You make those knights to buy you time to really capitalize on that 2 TC build. It's actually very reminiscent when it comes to an approach to what you would do with a Mongol Tower Rush build. You don't make those spearmen to do damage with them. You just make them to lay your enemy with them.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference between the Rus and the French, is like the Rus don't build knights with the original intention of this will win the game. It's like this will buy time, or this is a front line, or this is like an eco chip. There's always something else that takes priority. And then if Knights end up being uncountered, you can always double down on them, as we saw earlier today.
Good fight, though. Very good fight, actually. All the horsemen being healed back up, and it's starting to trickle down the forces of Puppypaw to alarmingly low levels, because if you take a look, he's down to 3 knights, many of them heavily damaged, only 9 archers against now 6 horsemen.
It is escalating somewhat. The problem is whenever you have to retreat like this, when you have to kind of concede these areas, right? Like, you're going to retreat, and it's going to shuffle your troops, and your slowest moving unit is going to force them all to slow down. So that's something that Beastyqt has to be careful about when he pulls away. If he goes too deep, especially with these scholars in the mix, he can get punished for that.
Yeah, so far, he didn't go punished, though. And he's also walling up the sacred sites behind this one, so he's playing this safe. Look at that. 2 deer.
Hold on
omitted from the hunting in the beginning.
Deer? Wow. Never seen one of them before. That's got to be worth 50 batnags.
That's how small deer are being made, kids.
We're a documentary now, are we? When Mama Deer and Dada Deer love each other very much, it doesn't matter, because anyone who grew up in Disney knows that a mean hunter comes by and kills them.
It gets 10 gold as a reward.
So you're saying that the hunter in Bambi was actually just a ruse hunter. It makes a lot of sense now.
Might have been a professional scout as well, so let's give him some
slack. This is
slack.
kind of like growing up where people relate with the hunter more than they do with Bambi now. Like when people watch movies with villains, they're like, I actually relate to the villain a lot more now.
Speaking of villains, horsemen now starting to do some aggression on the food eco of Puppypaw, and one thing that Beasty spotted is that Puppy is on berries. That's a sign that Puppypaw is trained on the food eco.
And he wants to pressure that. Beasty is now researching siege engineering. He's looking for a timing to pressure in. He understands the weakness of Puppypaw's formation. It's barely any melee. He doesn't have a way of dealing with rams. And the limited melee he has right now are busy trying to find premium targets like the village on the backside, ones that will not go down easily due to the textiles.
Oh, it could even be a trap. This is a trap, KP.
Bye. Oh, no. A different villager was doing it. He's too late.
Oh, no.
That's going to be a throwaway. Spearmen are coming up, but a few villagers going to go down. He can get out still.
Yeah. This is good because he's buying time for Castle Age, KP. That's the key thing here. Even if you kill those knights, it's all about the Castle Age for Puppy. Castle Age also coming in for Beastyqt, but his eco, it doesn't look super shiny. And if he's beaten to Castle Age, he could easily miss out on most of the relics as well. Something that the Delhi usually are able to get at the beginning of Castle.
Yeah, because while he has 7 scholars, he's up against knights. It's unlikely that Beasty has parked the scholars out in each of the relics right now because of the risk associated with doing this. So I could see a world in which Puppypaw could easily grab 3 relics across this map.
And a key thing is that those scholars were with the army just a couple of seconds ago, and as you said, knights are roaming the map, so you don't send them out one by one. And this is buying a lot of time for Puppypaw to send out his own warrior monks to start yoinking the relics away.
This is one of the frustrating builds you face against the Roost. Like, when they go Knights and then they tech up, like, it doesn't get easier, right? The Knights already stop you from gathering relics, and then you have to worry about the Horse Archers you know are coming. Especially if you consider Beasty's comp, like, Horsemen plus Spearmen. Horse Archers makes a lot of sense. Puppypaw just wants to raid and wants to buy time, and if you ever look away from your base, we've seen the damage Horse Archers can do there.
Exactly, that's a big thing, and you see Puppypaw is decking into Horse Archers, and he has a pretty monstrous eco if you think about that. Sure enough, Beasty has a lot of gold income from the sacred sites, but Puppypaw doesn't care about that. What he cares about is food and wood, and what he cares about is the fact that he's going to turn that into some very powerful and high population efficiency units like the Horse Archers.
And you can see he's just peeled those knights out. They're guarding different areas. And it means that Beasty probably has to take the whole army to one area at a time to get these relics. He's shifting out for the eastern one, so good value there. Kind of surprised that Puppypaw didn't try to intercept. It kind of feels like he got baited, actually, expecting Beasty to go over there with the army. And instead, Beasty is willing to take that risk to get double the amount of relics he otherwise would.
Speaking of risk, he's actually heading to the south here, trying to yoink this one. It's a bit of a long shot with the Horse Archers finding that scholar, so Puppypaw doing a decent job denying some of the relics at least from Beasty, but probably not all. 3 of them are already on the way back home.
Well, not going to be quick enough. Will be denied out. And it looks like at this rate, Puppypaw might end up with just 1 relic, considering Beasty's army is now circling west side. There's only 1 knight out here to guard.
Indeed. It's not like Puppypaw is going to have a tremendous amount of relics over here. It's probably going to come down to the decisive fight, though, by Puppypaw. You get the feel that he doesn't... Yoink!
Bye!
He
It's a
should have aggroed
small
the boar
victory.
even, just to get the scholar killed and then just run away.
Yeah, but like you beam moving too slow, right? Like the ball moves quick enough to eat your face at that stage. So I think you didn't want to get too cute about it. In the
Yeah.
meantime, though, Relics being brought back to base. So BC will get the line share with 3 versus the 2 of puppypaw. Now, puppypaw's next goal is to do something about these sacred sites. And it's a much more annoying endeavor as well, considering he went hard into ranged. Range doesn't do too well against these palisade walls.
And the bigger concern is that Beast is also stacking up a lot of stone in the bank, so he can easily start fortifying these in the next few moments. And once castles are being dropped, it's a completely different story, because as you said, those horse archers, they won't be able to do much. And a very nice detail that Beasty also has added to his gameplay here, walls. You can't have counterattack opportunities here if you're puppypaw. Well, except for this, maybe.
Yeah, where's the wall over here? Apparently we couldn't get a permit. Whoops. And these horse archers are pretty decent against lancers. Like, you got to remember that they actually have quite high damage. I think it's like 11 or 12 by default.
Yeah, it's a lot of base damage, so their armor piercing power is actually quite remarkable.
Yeah. Considering these lancers, you know, they've only got the level 1 range resistance, so they're probably at, I'd say, 5 ranged armor, maybe 6 on the knights. So over half the damage going through. And
villagers?
what in the
Hello?
world are you doing right now? Oh, this fight feels rough right now. Beasty's forced to try and defend here because he's limited on food. In fact, if you look at the income numbers and the lack of reserves on the north side, he needs these berries, and now puppypaw knows it.
And look at that Saint's Blessing also coming in here to buff that army even more.
The army that's not in range for the Saint's Blessing. Oh,
The effort
it
was
always
there,
catches
okay?
you off guard. He tried. Now, BC has to succeed here. Has to stand his ground, pushes back against the archers, but a lot of his spin being cleaned up. The horse archers more or less just completely ignored because it's so difficult to stick to them.
I love this. He's sacrificing all the archers that he doesn't really consider important anymore to keep the horse archers alive, to tank the damage, while also picking off a lot of precious scholars and high-priced knights. But look at that.
And the keep drop. I wonder where BC was going to drop it. He says, your base are belong to me now. However, BC, I'd be concerned about your own base right now. These horse archers are still going to sting. Meanwhile, puppypaw can recover his woodline elsewhere.
Beasty, he remembers what happened in game number 1 with all the kill drops.
The amount of villagers that just keep running into these horse archers, like Pew Pew Ponies got nerfed. They're not very strong anymore. No. They are still really powerful when used correctly.
Speaking of powerful, though, a lot of villagers are being slain on puppypaw's side as well. And remember, Beasty has enough stone for a second keep here. He remembers what happened in game number 1. He wants another keep soon.
He also turned on the Wi-Fi, so village fortresses won't take too long to get into. And let's remember that puppypaw, he needs wood now to get the answer to this problem, which is a siege workshop into trebuchets. And he's being blocked on both of his primary wood lines.
As the saying goes, offense is the best defense, and that's part of the equation here for Beasty, because Beasty, he doesn't even care that much about that keep. What he cares about is at the bottom left corner, the Sacred Site countdown down to 6.5 minutes, and the Horse Archers having no chance to get through those walls. puppypaw is gonna have to deal with that keep, and also decap one of those Sacred Sites somehow.
Horse Archer's also about to get munched up by Horsemen here. They'll just have to pepper them down as best they can. That's one of the annoying things, actually. Horsemen, they do well against a lot of units, but in this quantity, they actually lose to Horse Archers due to the raw damage.
I mean, let's be honest. There's 4 Horsemen on the field against overall 29 Horse Archers, so what do you expect?
I mean, according to my myths and history, 4 Horsemen can do a lot of work, okay? Apocalyptic levels, in fact.
Sure enough, indeed. 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse. That's what I want to say.
A lot
Look at that, though.
Situation. Ooh, Lancers are in. Spoon upgrades coming out, but puppypaw, where is the wood? Just enough together to get 1 trebuchet out. But let's remember, it's not just about the siege. If he gets blocked on wood, he can't keep building Horse Archers.
And that's the big thing, right? And that keep is still standing strong. And keep in mind that there is a massive villager lead for him on paper, but first of all, he's losing villagers left and right thanks to these Lancers, and the bigger thing is that, as you said, village fortresses becoming a reality very soon, so Beasty, he is getting closer and closer to a very strong position of power with only 5 minutes left on the Sacred Site countdown.
And he's also prepping Military Academy to continue the escalation, so it's not going to get easier in the coming minutes. puppypaw is going to start to feel the pressure. In the meantime, though, he is going to keep pressuring into the base with those Horse Archers, whittling away, hoping that he can do enough damage to Beasty's eco to slow him down.
Indeed, Beasty floating a lot of gold here. Actually, he desperately needs a market to get himself some food because you get the feel that he could have a lot more units on the field if he had a little bit more food to work with. Gets some nice raids here on the right side, though.
I dread to think what happens if like Beasty misses his timer on the sacred sites because he has to make a farm transition at this rate, and that could be a big weakness considering how much smaller his villager count is than 1puppypaw's.
I think now the decision point for Beasty is whether he wants to keep this keep alive or whether he just wants to fortify the sacred sites. We're down to 4 minutes and he needs to make a decision. He could try to stay, but he's risking losing one of the sacred sites because soon you're gonna have trebuchets out for 1puppypaw to take down those walls with. On the other hand,
losses, that trebuchet, I think it's unguarded. A lot of lances going down in the meantime, but it's a good distraction. Village is going to be pulled back. Good reaction out of 1puppypaw, just quick enough to keep the trebuchet alive, or maybe not. The strike's too strong. The bonus damage out from the horseman hits hard here. 1puppypaw might end up losing both. In fact, the choke point is the only thing saving this trebuchet from death.
indeed, Villagers being pulled to repair. He needs that trebuchet because, as you said, you need to get through that keep. And that is not something that he can accomplish right now.
Well, I was about to say GG to the keep, but it looks like it's actually going to get a chance to stay alive. Speaking of keeps, one now going out on the eastern front because he realizes it's less likely it's going to be contested directly. More likely there's going to be an attempt to try and wiggle out onto the east or western sacred site here.
Oh, look at that. We got a bit of a lag apparently over here in between the two. Frames?
Whoopsie.
Come back, please.
Whoopsie. What, have you never cast at -5 frames a second? It's very fun. Look at this, teleporting lances, holy crap! New patch OP, please nerf AOE! Apology for this, it looks like it is stabilizing now. Horse archers in the meantime now are gonna clean up on this flank, but Beasty once again buying time. Less than 3 minutes away from a sacred site victory.
Yeah, that's right. The thing that he's gambling for is that the only tool 1puppypaw has to get through those walls are trebuchets. And this is alarming for Puppy. Puppy should realize what's going on and he should think about horsemen, just burn his way through the walls because the trebs, they will never make it there. And the horse archers will be insufficient. Oh, there he is! The villagers!
1puppypaw! That's the boy I was waiting to turn up! Keep up on the western front, too slow. Beasty cannot prevent the sacred site decap. He'll try with one villager, but shivs out, boys. You ain't got time to waste.
Oh, indeed. Sacred site getting decapped, but
What?
keep in mind. What?
1puppypaw? He doesn't know. He doesn't realize. Oh, no. The walls are going up. If he's quick enough, he can delay this. However, the keep will be up, and it's going to be a lot of villagers going down.
He didn't see the keep, KP. He didn't see it at all.
He does now. Uh-oh. Too late, though. Decap continues for the moment. Beasty has stepped off it, but with Textiles Villages, he can buy enough time here. And reinforcements have arrived.
Oh no, the Lancers are here.
That's it. It's chalked. It's done, Lidicor. There's no way. He's making a rush on the eastern flank as well, but with a keep there, Beasty has done it. 1puppypaw cannot get the sacred site decap. He has paused the timer for the moment, but Villagers cannot tank for long.
And a key thing is that the keep inside the base of 1puppypaw is also gone. He was distracted because now his base was in danger. Tried to decap, but it's too late, and you see all the sacred sites are fortified. He needs to stand and fight, otherwise he's gonna get destroyed. But if he does so, he can't decap the sacred sites. Nowhere left to go, nowhere left to hide for 1puppypaw. This might be it for him.
No way he can get in there quick enough. Less than 2 minutes as we're about to go out of that margin, and ding, ding, ding should start to come out. 1puppypaw now up against the ropes. What will his choice be? Horse archers in some ways have served you well, but not where it matters. They will not get you through these walls that are now being rebuilt.
Yeah, it's too little, too late. It's a pick your poison scenario. You see Golden Gate already being trapped down. Mangonel's on the field as well.
Heavy doubt right now. Mangonel, so many of them. Beasty's like, well, I know how I'm going to win this game, so I might as well just, you know, make a horsing crisis here, kill as many ponies as possible, because this is done. There's no way. Another keep being dropped. Beasty just wants to make sure 1puppypaw, credit to him, he sticks it till the very end, but he's stuck. No way out. GG gets called. Beastyqt, great leverage of the deli, will take the dub.
Indeed, they got the advantage at the beginning and the momentum was just massive. For a moment, it seemed like 1puppypaw was gonna stabilize and he's gonna decap the sacred site. But after that, Beasty's reaction swift. And in the end, Beasty, he just did two things at the same time. Two different victory conditions he targeted. He started trapping his opponent's base, forcing him to react, while also having the sacred site countdown. And this is why it is so important to wall in those sacred sites. If they weren't walled in, the Cav archers would have decapped it so long ago. But they were walled in, and 1puppypaw had absolutely no tools to get through those willows with.